When talking about testimonies and how people come to know the Lord, I have realized that nobody is the same. Everybody comes to know Him in a different way. Some people are born into Christian families. Some people are introduced to the Lord through a family member or a friend, and other people come to know Him through a situation in their lives. Personally, I came to know Him through a situation that happened in my life. When I was a child, I was born into a Catholic family. We honestly never went to church on Sundays, never regularly. We would really only go Christmas and Easter, some special event, but I didn't know what a relationship with Jesus was like. I didn't even really know who He was. I had no idea what being a Christian was. I wasn't introduced to that ever throughout my childhood. And then, when I was 7 years old, my parents got a divorce. So I'm 7, my little brother's 4 years old, and we don't really know what's going on. We don't know what's happening. Mom and Dad are fighting. They're not getting along. My mom is living in a different house. She moves to town. And we're just going back and forth every week. One week we're at Mom's house, the next week we're at Dad's house, and then it's just back and forth. And it's hard, you feel like you don't have a family. And there's nothing stable. And also during this time, my grandma, my mom's mom, got very sick. She was actually almost close to death. And so that was also very hard for my mom and me. I don't think my brother remembers much of it, but this one day my mom said she remembers she was on her way home from the hospital visiting my grandma, and she's just crying. She just breaks down. And she doesn't remember doing it, but she remembers grabbing the phone and dialing a number. And she was calling my dad and asking for his forgiveness for the mistake that she made and how she hurt him. And he forgave her. And shortly after that, they started dating again, and they started doing couples and premarital counseling with the current pastor that was at the church that we go to now. And so they started the counseling with him, and eventually they did get married again for the second time in that church. And I think the time that they were officially apart, divorced and everything, the time that they got divorced to the time they got married was about 8 months. So it was a really quick process. It wasn't a very long time, but it was very, very difficult for them and for me and my brother. And shortly after they got married, we started going to church every week. I started going to Awanas every Wednesday and Sunday school, and I accepted the Lord into my life, and I became a follower of Him. And I started having a relationship with Him, and up until then, I didn't know what that was like. I had absolutely no idea. And then 4 years ago, I had been living my life for Him, and I had a relationship with Him, but I felt like when I made that decision the first time, I was young, and I didn't fully understand what that was. And so it was the summer, I believe I was 12 years old, and I was at Camp Chaminade. It's a Bible camp up in Motley, and I rededicated my life to Christ. And so since then, it's just been really cool to see how He uses me as one of His followers to bring other people to Christ and to let them know what it's like to live with Him. And so looking back on that hard time that me and my family went through, I realized that without that divorce, without that conflict in our lives, there's no way that I would have come to know the Lord. And I thank Him that is how I came to know Him, and that is the way that I started my relationship with Him. So thank you for listening.